the very pointy steeple of Hever Church in Kent, where Anne Boleyn's father is buried. That is the tomb there. Obviously the church floor has been raised at some point. You know, I've never really looked at his face very much. I don't know how many people really visit here and see the tomb of Anne Boleyn's father here. On the top is this big brass with the inscription, "Here lieth Sir Thomas Bullen." I do not think that the brass of Thomas Boleyn was made in 1538-9, and I'm trying to prove or disprove that theory. Right, I'm really confused then about why is it called the Bullen Chapel? If the church warden's accounts, the earliest is from 1603, how actually do they know who built that chapel? Has it been renamed later on, the Bullen Chapel? This is a big mystery. There's some history of Hever here. This is from the website called kentpast.co.uk. Hever comes from the Anglican word he, meaning high, tall, important. And I don't know how to pronounce this, Ifri, the edge of the brow of a hill. So what does it tell us about this? The Bullen family added a chapel around 1450, providing the final resting place for Sir Thomas Bullen. In 1797, Edward Hasted described St Peter's Church as a small but neat building consisting of one aisle and two chancels, having a handsome spire at the west end of it. The Victorians carried out the main restoration in 1894. We will talk about that later. So let's look what else we've got here in these articles. So this is just a page on northernvicar.co.uk. This is from 2016. I don't know who Northern Vicar is, but never mind. We are in Kent and had a cottage in Hever. St Peter's Church was open and worth exploring. They advertised the fact it is open very well indeed. The church website is here and there are photos here. So this is the church that we've obviously visited already. Just talking about the pub and other things in the castle where they visited. Parts of the current building date from 1292, most of it is mid-14th century, and the Bullen Chapel was added in about 1465. There was a restoration in 1894, and the wooden lid of the font went into the care of Mr W. Bourne the builder and was not seen until many years, until his granddaughter found it after his death being used as a coffee table and returned it to the church. The pulpit dates to 1621. He's just saying he liked a plaque to two vergers, which are here. Wilfred, Johnny, Betty and Sidney Charlie Cook. So I didn't notice those. So this is just some pictures they've got just of the church, and this is obviously the altar here. You've got the brass of Margaret Cheyne, which is just here, and then the Boleyn tomb is just here, and the little grave to the brother of Anne Boleyn is here. There's the brass of Margaret Cheyne. There's this brass here as well that I've never actually seen. The writing in this particular style, I've never seen that. I don't quite know where it is. It's in the chancel somewhere. I don't think we saw it when I was there. And then he's got some pictures of the stone here. This is what we looked at, where it's lying on the grave, and then there's the inscription here. We're going to look at that a bit more later. So often when I'm looking for information on parish records, sometimes I just type in the name of the parish, so like in this case Hever Kent, and then I look at two websites. One is GENUKI.org.uk, so I would just type in Hever Kent GENUKI to see what it comes up for their records. This is what they've got here on GENUKI, which is a great resource. They've got a picture of the church here with its spire there. But for this one, it just says the church has a graveyard. It was founded in the 12th century. There's not really anything on this one here. Often there's great resources, but just for Hever, they've not got much. So then I'd also look at just Googling in Hever, Kent, and then FamilySearch, because they also have pages. This is the FamilySearch page for Hever. So down on the side, there's a picture here, and it's really helpful because it tells you where the records begin. So it shows here, records begin. Parish registers begin in 1632. Okay, so early ones are lost, clearly. And then the Bishops Transcripts begin in 1670, so they don't help with the gaps before. I forget when Bishops Transcripts even started. When did Bishops Transcripts start? It was long. I don't even remember. Should we just quickly find out when did Bishops Transcripts start, just so we know? The earliest begin in 1558. So Bishops Transcripts starting in 1558, but for Hever it's only 1670. There is another little record that I found here from doing my Google on the National Archives, and I'm a bit confused about what this is. I haven't looked into it a lot. This is the Kent History and Library Centre, and it's got the Streatfeild manuscripts and correspondence Streatfeild family, Henry Streatfeild and family, from the Reverend Thomas Streatfeild of Longdon and later of Charts Edge Westram, antiquary and a family historian, about the genealogy. So this is a letter, I think it's a letter, or from 1812. So it includes thanks for the extracts from the parish registers, particularly as the early registers of both Hever and Cowden have disappeared since the extracts were made. So I'm really interested about these extracts and when they were made, as it's going to give us a date as to when the parish registers went missing. So it's a bit of a sideways step, but it would be interesting to know. Somebody's put online all of the baptisms here, because Parish and other records, they've got all the years. Obviously these years are missing here for Hever because the records don't survive. I don't know why there's one marriage there for, oh, that must be from 1632. But they've presumably transcribed them all. That's really interesting. Continuing going on through our records that I found, this article here from kentarchaeology.org.uk, which is about St Peter, Hever. Just looking to see what it says about the church. The church is perhaps most famous for its very fine brass to Sir Thomas Bullen, yeah, which we know. What does it say about the Bullen Chapel? In 1465, Sir Geoffrey Boleyn, who owned the manor of Hever, was able to found a chantry. How do we know that, I wonder? I don't know what the record for that is. The northeast chapel, however, seems to have been built sometime after this, perhaps in the very early 16th century. It connects with the chancel by two very depressed four-centred arches. There is another in the north aisle, and on the north it has diagonal buttresses and a contemporary fireplace reopened in 1987. So we know that a pulpit with tester was dated 1621. So something in the church, something happened in 1621. They obviously had a bit of a refurb of some description. The other thing I want to look at are records of Hever at the Kent History and Library Centre. So I was really interested about seeing when the floor raised up and just seeing what other records survived that might help me understand the chapel a bit more. And this is under the Kent History and Library Centre, under Canterbury, Hever. We've got some dated records here. So the removal of a small cottage, which isn't that interesting. The removal of remains of someone in 1891. This one, though, is of interest because it says 1894. This is about the refurbishment. And if we just go into the record itself, to reseat the organ in oak, provide new pavements, reglaze the windows, provide a new clergy desk and choir stalls, provide a new front and chancel screen and erect an organ. So this is, I think, when the floor was raised around all the restoration then. There is a record here, correspondence on church ornaments and ritualism in Hever, that's in the Lambeth Palace Library. So I don't know what church ornaments are here from 1876, so that might be worth having a look at if I have time. We've got some more records here for Hever Parish records, church registers, licences, properties, rates, accounts, and it's actually really the accounts that interest me the most, although there's loads of stuff here, but I'm interested in the accounts because that might say if anything was done in the chapel later, because if I think that that brass is later than 1539, does it appear in the accounts when it might have been put in? It's doubtful because the church wardens wouldn't have paid for it, had been the person who fitted it, but it's just something to think about. And I don't fully know what records are here. Just looking to see if there's anything earlier. Visitors' books. That's miscellaneous. These are the church wardens' accounts. So church wardens and overseers' accounts. 1603 to 8 to 1623. So the earliest things that seem to be there are the church wardens' accounts from this time. So I think the next stop then on this is to visit the church archives in the Kent History Record Centre. I've written a couple of emails. The first one is to Kent Archives, just about the Hever records. I'm just asking specifically about the record that there is about these earlier transcripts of the parish registers before they were lost, just trying to work out when they were. I'm also just asking about any other refurbishment documents and just what generally survives of the parish records and building and monument records in their archives. So I'm going to send that off. I've also written an email to the Lambeth Palace archives, which are the Church of England records, just about St Peter's Hever and that one record that I saw about the church ornaments at Hever, just to see what that means and what other records they've got. And I've also just asked about St Mary at Lambeth, because in a parallel set of videos to this is going to be me trying to discover a bit more about the tomb of Elizabeth Boleyn and the Howard burials in St Mary at Lambeth. So I'm sending both those off now. Let's see what they bring back. I've had auto replies from both archives. So Kent Archives say they will respond as soon as possible within 20 working days. Lambeth Palace Archives say we aim to send a fuller response within 10 working days, but depends on the nature of the inquiry, staff availability and the volume of inquiries received. 20 working days, so it's sort of like, well, within a calendar month. Well, I've had a reply to both these emails. I've had a brilliant, really helpful reply from the Archive Service Officer, which is incredibly informative and valuable. It's a really amazing reply, right? Let's just go through what they've said, though, about what's available. So you can find a complete catalogue of our record holdings from this church on our online catalogue there. So that's really helpful. Details of the church warden's accounts can be found under series, this one, P184. Right, now then they talk about the parish registers. I was just a bit interested, as an aside, about why they were lost. It wasn't really to do with my search for Thomas Bullen. I was just interested about why they went missing. So this person said the earliest parish register is this, from 1632 to 1774, which is a composite register of baptisms and burials for that period, and then marriages 1632 to 1754 for the parish of St Peter Hever. And the reason why it only goes up to 1754, because the Hardwicke Marriage Act came in and there had to be 2 witnesses, and all churches really adopted a whole new format of marriages so that they had to be done more legally. I think a lot of it was to protect women being abused by basically men trying to take their money, because as soon as you got married to a man, you lost all of your income and all of your estate. It went to your husband. So she said there are no surviving Bishops Transcripts for Hever recorded in our Rochester Diocese collection, so I'm unsure where FamilySearch have obtained the date of 1670 from. Only Bishops Transcripts from 1813 are now extant, so that seems to be a bit wrong on FamilySearch from what this person says. So then they're talking about this document from the Streatfeild collection, which is also held. Thomas Streatfeild's letter implies that Henry Streatfeild had a copy of the lost parish registers, but does not mention what dates were covered and when they were made. However, there are lists of Streatfeild family members that were extracted from the Hever registers within the collection, which were made in 1742 to 1744. So we know in 1742 to 1744, the Hever parish registers survived. Where did they go? Where did they go? You always think, I wonder if they're out there somewhere, don't you? Could they be out there somewhere? So a list of the names of members of the Streatfeild family found in Hever registers 1560 to 1688. And then the names of other families who were also found in the Hever registers for that period, 1632 to 1736. So it says the Hever parish registers are also mentioned in these documents, both dated 1742, when it appears that the registers were being loaned and there were difficulties locating some. So somebody loaned them. Is that how they went missing? So with regards to the church's furbishment in 1894, so we're moving on to this part now, I'm afraid that there are no further records relating to the building work that was undertaken in this period within our collection. There is also a gap in the vestry minutes from 1872 to 1895. Oh, there's a gap, which might have recorded plans for an expenditure on the work. It's possible that document Rev D.S.L, the notes on the Hever Church compiled by Rev D.S.L. Foster, may contain some information. Maybe he wrote more notes. I hope this information assists you. Dr Helen Wicker sent me a great response here. Just making a note in my book. Kent Archives, Hever. Documents to view. Church Warden's accounts. 1603 to 1623. 1645 to 1724. So the reason I want to look at those is just in case someone put in a brass in the 1600s and it is referenced there. Because I still don't believe that brass is from 1538 unless it was made by someone from Europe. Right, so I've made a note of those documents. So if I get to the Kent History and Library Centre, I will have a look at those. But what a lovely response from this person. I'm just going to send Dr Wicker So I've just said, thanks for such a detailed, informative reply. This helped me so much. Thank you very much indeed. Because it's always nice to thank someone, isn't it, if they give you a really helpful response. So I'm going to send that back. And that's it for this stage of the Hever research.
You can continue the story with the next episode unedited, or continue finding out more with the edited episode. Or what about watching this new family history story? Click here to subscribe to the channel to find out all about future episodes. Thanks for watching.